Hey, I'm Alex. I'm 34 and people always say I'm dependable. Not exciting, not a party animal, just someone you can count on. I'm the guy who files his taxes early, remembers everyone's birthdays, and seriously, I even make budget spreadsheets for fun. Who knew that being so responsible would turn me into my own family's whipping boy? Crazy, right? Growing up, I was the invisible kid in the middle. My older brother, Jordan, was the star. He was the golden child, always getting praise, even when he totaled Dad's car in high school. My younger sister, Lily, was the baby, sweet, spoiled rotten, and never faced any real consequences. And me, I was just there, never got much praise, never got much trouble either. I got good grades, did my chores, got into a good college, and paid for it all myself. I didn't complain, I didn't cause trouble. That was my role, you know. Just be helpful and keep quiet. Things changed after college. I got a good job in finance, a small apartment, and started building a real life for myself. But almost immediately, the requests started pouring in. It began small, stuff like, "Alex, can you lend me $200 for Lily's textbooks?" Or, "Alex, your dad and I are a little short this month. Could you help with groceries?" Each time I told myself it was just temporary, that's what families do, right? But it never ended. As time went on, the requests got bigger, way bolder. Then Jordan decided he wanted to start a business. "It's gonna be huge," he swore, so I was in on the ground floor of this thing, right? I gave this guy $5 grand. He blew it all on a Miami vacation and some crazy new gaming setup. Then there was Lily. She wanted a city apartment closer to acting gigs. I co-signed her lease. 3 months later, rent's overdue. And my parents? Wow, they refinanced their house twice and still managed to run up more credit card debt than you could ever imagine. And anytime anything went wrong, literally or just, life stuff, I was the first person they called. At first, I told myself it was okay. I figured they just needed a little help, that I was lucky and lucky people helped others out. But then the way they talked started to change. At first, it was subtle, little jokes. Mom would say, "You're like our little emergency fund," or Dad would smirk, "Alex always bails us out." Seemed harmless enough at the time, right? But those jokes, they stopped feeling like jokes. It was like this was just how things were, set in stone. I tried to set some limits. A couple years back, I told my mom I couldn't co-sign another one of Jordan's crazy schemes. She got really cold, really quiet. Didn't hear from her for a whole month. When she finally called, it wasn't an apology. Nope, it was about how Dad hurt his back and they needed help with medical bills. I gave in again. But then, a month ago, it all came crashing down. I just finished the worst 3 months at work, 12-hour days, no weekends off. I was finally thinking about buying a small condo, putting a down payment down, It felt like a huge deal, like maybe I could finally build something for myself. Then my mom called. She wanted me to co-sign another loan. This time, it was Lily. She'd found her passion and wanted to start a crystal shop with a friend she'd made at a weekend workshop. I had to chuckle. Honestly, I thought she was joking at first, but nope. When I politely declined, my mom totally lost it. I'll never forget the sound of it. Her voice went from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat. I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "You're just a burden we put up with," she yelled. "You think you're so high and mighty, but you're just a grumpy, selfish person. We've dealt with your attitude for years." Then silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just stared at the floor, the phone glued to my ear like it was going to apologize for her. I hung up without a word, didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't fire off some angry email. I just started packing. No big showdown, no dramatic door slams. I just left. Took a few days off work, threw my stuff in the car, and vanished. Didn't tell them where I was going, didn't check in. Just turned off my phone, booked a short-term rental in a sleepy town a few hours away, and tried to remember what peace felt like. The first few days were weird. There was this empty, quiet feeling like something was missing inside me. I kept reaching for my phone out of habit, then remembering it was off. My brain kept expecting guilt trips from my mom, messages from Lily, calls from Jordan trying to fix things. But there was nothing. Just quiet, so 2 weeks later, bam, my phone was back on work, and wow, tons of missed calls and texts. Most were from people I didn't know, but one jumped out, Jordan, just a text. "Why the mortgage decline?" No hello, nothing, just that. I just stared, my heart pounding. It wasn't a shock, honestly. It just proved what I already suspected. My name was still all over their paperwork. My good credit was propping up their whole messy financial house of cards. They hadn't even considered me until the whole thing started to crumble. I shot back one simple text, asking how the family that barely tolerated me was doing. Then I shut the phone off again. And this time, it stayed off. But that was just the start of it all. Because when people like that realize you're not there to bail them out, they don't just quietly fall. No way, they freak out, they go crazy, and they show you exactly what they're really made of. 3 days later, I turned it back on, and the thing practically leaped off the counter. Calls, voicemails, the whole screen froze with messages. For a second, I just hesitated, wondering if I even wanted to look. But curiosity killed the cat, right? I skipped the voicemails, just read the texts. Lily, where are you? Mom's losing it. She says you messed up the mortgage. And Jordan, dude, couldn't you have given us a heads up? Now it's all on me. My mom sent a text, going on about how I was messing everything up for us. Dad chimed in with something about me needing to grow up and how this was bigger than just me. Mom, you're still treating me like a kid, I texted back. Quit being a baby and call me. Then the messages really started to sting and I just stopped scrolling. Mom wrote, I brought you into this world, I made you, and this is how you thank me. Jordan messaged, you're just jealous, admit it, you love seeing us mess up. And Lily's message, you were never really one of us anyway, cut way deeper than I thought it would. I didn't answer. I didn't see the point. They weren't trying to find out anything. They were just taking swings, thrashing around now that their favorite target wasn't around anymore. And the more I didn't respond, the more they let their true feelings show. Later that week, I got an email from the bank. It was just a formality. The mortgage was in default. They hadn't been paying for months. Apparently, my parents had just been getting by with extensions and partial payments, expecting me to bail them out eventually. I had no idea it was this bad because naturally they didn't tell me. That same day, my aunt texted me. She's my mom's sister. We weren't super close, but she was always pretty nice to me. The message was short and sweet. I don't know exactly what's up, but I just want you to know you don't owe anyone anything. I thought about that for a long time. You don't owe anyone anything. Nobody in my own family had ever said anything like that to me. Not ever. A week went by, then two. The quiet was so strange, but also nice. I put my head down and really got into my work. I started running again, too. I even found a new apartment to move into. Nothing fancy, just a chill place with sunlight and a tiny balcony where I could drink my coffee in the morning and not have to deal with anyone. I actually thought that would be it, that maybe, just maybe, they'd get the message. But some people don't give up easy. Things got even worse one Sunday evening. I was just going through my emails when I saw it, an invite to an event. It was for the grand opening of Lily's Crystal Boutique. I just started laughing, not because it was funny, but because it was completely nuts. After everything, she still went ahead with it. The place was some super expensive spot in a hip part of town, and the RSVP had a link to a donation registry to help pay for her spiritual journey. I just closed the email. The next morning, I got another message from Jordan. We're trying to hold this family together, Alex, but you're making it so hard. Mom can't sleep. Dad's thinking about taking a second job. Lily cries every day. Is that what you wanted? Seriously. He thought that would actually work? Guilt. They always went for that, but it didn't work. I didn't feel guilty. I felt clear. For the first time, I wasn't just holding something together just because it was what I knew. Still, I wasn't stupid. I knew they wouldn't let me go without one last thing, and sure enough, it happened. So a week after Lily's boutique opened, my boss at work cornered me. Apparently, she'd gotten this weird call from someone pretending to be my worried parent. They claimed I was freaking out, making bad decisions, and maybe being controlled by others. I just stared at her, totally shocked. That's not true at all, I said. She just nodded like, yeah, I figured. But you know, company policy, we had to make a note of it and check in. After that, I changed my phone number. I went through every password, every shared account, anything I could think of. I even took my name off my parents' mortgage. For real. Turns out they'd forged some stuff. When they put me on the second time, my lawyer friend helped me clean that up. You'd think that would be the end of it. But 2 weeks later, there was a knock at my door, and when I opened it, it was my mom. She was standing there looking worn out, pale, but not sorry at all. Just waiting. She didn't say hi, didn't ask if she could come in, didn't even try to pretend this visit was about caring or affection. She just looked past me into my hallway at my apartment that I'd spent the last month putting together bit by bit and said, "So this is where you've been hiding." I stood there for a second, still holding the doorknob, not sure if I should slam it or let her talk. I hadn't seen her in person since the day she yelled at me that I was a burden. Right there in my doorway, like some apparition from a chapter I was still trying to forget, was her. She seemed smaller, older, though definitely not gentler. "Mom," I said, my voice flat. "What are you doing here?" She strode in, acting like she still had the right to just waltz into my life, into my place. "We need to talk. You can't just abandon your family every time things get tough." I almost snorted. "I didn't abandon anyone," I told her. "I quietly left after getting yelled at again for even setting a tiny boundary." She rolled her eyes like I was being a drama queen, like nothing of this was a big deal. "You always take everything so personally, Alex," she said, tucking a piece of hair behind her ear. "You blow things out of proportion. We were upset. People say stuff when they're mad. You know we love you." I just looked at her, a chill settling in my chest. The kind of cold that's not from the weather. It comes from years of being manipulated, ignored, used. You said I was a burden that you put up with me. That wasn't a heat-of-the-moment thing. That was the truth, your truth. Her lips tightened. She wasn't expecting me to push back. She'd come here thinking I'd just cave like I always did. Then she sighed real dramatic. Look, I'm not here to fight. We're in a jam. The mortgage is behind, the bank's about to foreclose, and your dad, he's not doing great. Jordan's too busy trying to hustle up investors for his new project, and Lily's selling those super expensive crystals out of a crummy strip mall. I added, that look on your face, that's exactly the issue. You always act like you're better than everyone else. I moved into the doorway, blocking her. Nope, I think I've busted my butt and done the right thing. That doesn't make me superior. It makes me completely wiped out. For the first time since she showed up, she seemed unsure, hesitant. You really won't help us? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, almost shocked. I just stared at her. My mother, the woman who used my name like a credit card, calling it love, never asking how I was unless it somehow involved what I could do for her. I already did, I said. For 15 years, she hated that. The facade crumbled and the mask fell. We're your family, Alex, she snapped, her voice climbing again. You don't just ditch family because it's not easy. That was it. The word convenient, I took a step back, giving her a visual heads-up of what was coming. I didn't ditch anyone, I said softly. I just finally stopped playing a part I never signed up for. And if you're here expecting me to pick up where I left off, to fix everything again, you should probably leave before you make a fool of yourself. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. For a split second, she looked like she wanted to yell, but she didn't. She just stood there, blinking like she couldn't believe this was happening. I don't have anywhere else to go, she finally whispered, and for a second, something inside me almost cracked. It wasn't because I believed her, but just for a split second, I was a kid again. I was 10, and I was listening to the grown-ups fight, the arguments I wasn't supposed to hear, the bills piling up, Mom sobbing at the kitchen table, thinking nobody could see. But that was a long time ago. I was 34 now, and I knew exactly what happened every single time I caved. So I slowly nodded. I'm sorry, I really am, but I can't take this anymore. And then I closed the door. I just stood there, my hand still on the knob, and the silence on the other side got really thick. I figured she'd knock again, or maybe yell at me, curse me through the door. But she didn't. She just left, or that's what I thought. A few hours later, I checked my email. There it was, a forwarded message, urgent financial misconduct by a family member. It had been sent to my work's HR department and the sender. My brother, I just stared at the screen. I didn't even get it at first. My brain couldn't process the nerve of it. Jordan had actually filed a formal complaint with my company, saying I was involved in some kind of shady stuff, some financial misconduct with family money. Money that, let's be clear, I'd been covering for them for years. His email was over the top, filled with just enough fancy words to sound important. Like misappropriation, deceptive financial manipulation, breach of something or other responsibility. It was obvious he didn't know what half the words meant, but it was also clear what he was trying to do. He was trying to take me down, or at least freak me out enough to give in. The rest of the email was just a jumble of screenshots that didn't prove a thing. Actually, most of them were just my own money being moved from my accounts to theirs. No explanations, just raw numbers like they were supposed to mean something. But Jordan knew the deal. In the corporate world, what people think is the only thing that counts. One accusation, even a total lie, can mess up a career. And I had worked really hard for mine, every step of the way, no easy ways out, no backup plan. It was everything I had. I didn't freak out at first. I sent the email to my lawyer, Danielle, who I went to college with and who was in corporate law and owed me some favors. She got back to me quick. This is textbook defamation. Save everything. Don't say anything. Let me handle it. And that's what I did. For a couple of weeks, I stayed silent. HR did their usual thing like they had to. I had a quick meeting where I just told them I'd been helping my family out financially for years. And now that I cut them off, they were getting back at me. I gave them bank statements. I showed them texts. I even gave them a message from my mom that said, "It was just a burden we tolerate." My manager, God bless her, didn't even try to hide how disgusted she was. "I've never seen anything this manipulative in my career," she said after the meeting. But that wasn't the end of it. My lawyer, Danielle, wasn't just interested in clearing my name. She was out for blood. We slapped them with a cease and desist for all the lies they'd spread about me. The lawsuit listed everything: Jordan's nasty email to HR, my mom faking a call to my job saying I was unstable, even Lily's sneaky little social media post hinting I'd stolen from her spiritual fund. Danielle put it all together nice and neat, and we sent it certified mail, fancy letterhead, tracking number, the whole 9 yards. I figured they'd ignore it, but they didn't. Oh no, they reacted. First, it was my mom leaving those tearful voicemails. Alex, we didn't mean to go this far, she sobbed. You're really going to see your own family? We're struggling, Alex. We just wanted your attention. Then Jordan texted, all indignant. You're seriously threatening to sue? You're insane. You used to be cool. Now you're just some corporate drone who forgot who helped you. The nerve, like I was the one who forgot. I paid Jordan's rent for 4 years straight. I bailaid him out when he maxed out 3 credit cards in college. I even helped him buy his first car, and then his second car after he totaled the first one drunk driving and begged me not to tell Mom. I'd spent way more on him than on myself over the past 10 years, and I was the one who'd forgotten. But the thing that finally broke me, the last straw, was when Lily actually showed up at my office. I went downstairs to the cafe to get some lunch, and there she was. Lily, in some floaty, pale pink dress, clutching a mason jar crammed with pink crystals, looking like she'd stepped right out of a yoga studio. Alex, she chirped, way too loud, way too fake. Can we talk? I really didn't want to cause a scene, so I pulled her away from everyone else. Lily, I asked, keeping my voice down, what are you doing here? She gave me this wide-eyed, innocent look. I just want to understand why you're being so mean, she said. We're family, there's no need for lawyers. You know how fragile Mom is, you're hurting her. There it was again, hurting, not protecting myself, not creating some healthy distance, hurting. You're not here to talk, I told her. You're here to play games, same as always. She looked all wounded. I came here with good intentions. I gestured toward the crystals in her hand. And what's that supposed to do? Magically convince me to lend you more money? Her fake smile finally faltered. You're being awful. No, I said, I'm being honest. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. You'll regret this, she hissed. Family doesn't forget when they've been betrayed. That's when it hit me. They actually thought I was the one who betrayed them, not Jordan, who tried to wreck my career. Not Mom, who called me a dead weight. Not Lily, who tried to guilt-trip me with this new-age mumbo-jumbo after stiffing me on thousands of dollars in rent. Me. Because I finally stopped letting them walk all over me. I pulled away from her and walked out. Didn't even glance back. 2 months went by. The cease and desist letter worked. The emails dried up, the phone stopped ringing. So the HR people wrapped up the investigation officially. My department got a statement saying I was in the clear, which was a relief. Even my boss called me in and said something like, "You've handled this like a pro, way better than most people." After that, I started sleeping soundly, eating right, just generally doing better. Then bam, one night I got a letter from the bank. The mortgage was in default. Foreclosure was happening. My childhood home, where I used to get skinned knees, where my dad and I painted the walls when I was a kid, where I bawled after every breakup, it was all going up for sale. I didn't feel thrilled or like ready to get my revenge. Instead, I felt peace. Because at last, it wasn't my mess to clean up anymore. I'd given them a heads up. I tried. And when they chose to be entitled instead of caring, when they chose to be sneaky instead of just being straight with me, they lost the one person still holding everything together. A week later, I went to the house. It was empty. The windows were covered in boards. The grass was a mess. The paint on the porch was falling off. I wasn't even upset. I walked to the mailbox, popped in a letter addressed to nobody, and just left. Inside the envelope was a picture of a sign I keep on my desk now. It said, "You're not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm." I have no idea where they are now, and honestly, that's okay because I finally put myself first and I haven't looked back.